Shall we start again? Hello.
Hello. Hello, and welcome to Ways of the Mind. Is that right?
It's whether it's working or not.
Yeah, I think I've got it working now.
Got it working now. Wait, what's happened to the shirt? You know,
I know sometimes I like the old sweatshirt to remind me this is my I don't need therapy, I just need judo sweatshirt.
Love it.
So, because sometimes in life you don't need to talk about things too deeply, you just get on with it.
The JFDI?
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you can dwell about things, and as a psychotherapist for many years, I know that you can help an awful lot of people make changes. Yet sometimes it's just the smallest thing they have to do to move on. Because the biggest, I suppose the biggest killer of people's dreams is chewing the arse out of everything and expecting that to make a difference. I think that's a slight take on Albert Einstein's, the first sign of madness is aiming for a goal and continuing to do the same things and expecting a different result. So.
No, I thought it was the hairs on the palms of my hand. Am I wrong?
Well, I can see 5 from here, Wendy, and it's not looking good.
I didn't shave this morning.
So yeah, it's interesting. I can remember using the judo analogy a number of years ago when someone said, "Oh, so what are your qualifications then, Gary?" I said, "Well, I'm a judo coach and a hypnotist. So, there's an easy way to change. Either throw you or hypnotize you." So, and then I use that excuse when I was working with teams as well, because for some people they do need to know what are your qualifications, and I can understand that. So yeah, I just throw that one out. Or on one occasion, I remember. Sorry, Wendy.
I was just wondering, because I only got my first real work qualification in, let's remind me, March 2019.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, and
right.
it was because I thought I should really have a qualification in this.
Yeah.
I've been doing it 30 years.
Now, was that for yourself or was that for others?
That was for myself.
Right.
I thought it was for others.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, it was for me.
It was for yourself, yeah?
Yeah.
Because I've often noticed that myself, that sometimes qualifications are more important for other people than they are for yourself. I mean, you can dress things up. I always remember years ago being shown how to dress the therapy room up to have an impact on clients. So like with certificates, certain books, very, very learned books with little slips on with make sure you write the white paper on it, something like that, which I wasn't going to do. But it all makes a difference, really. Mm-hmm. So I think that qualifications are good as a recognition. It's a big tick mark, isn't it? To say, well done, you. And a recognition for the outside world as well sometimes.
I've never been asked since.
What does that prove then? What does that prove?
Exactly. Whether that is just the change of mindset in me, that I act in a way that I know because I have the proof, then I might not be qualified in this, but
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And I suppose for some professions and trades, it's very important to have those qualifications, like lawyers, solicitors, accountants.
Oh, I was thinking of plumbers and electricians.
That's interesting. Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
It's the spectrum.
I suppose you're right.
Spectrum of skill, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So you're right. So for example, having a gas appliance fitted, you definitely want the gas fitter to make sure that they were fully qualified for legal reasons and health reasons as well. So yeah. Good one there. Yeah. Great start for the conversation. To be qualified or not to be qualified, that is the question.
Yeah, but then again, nothing really replaces experience, which is why the news this morning really, struck me in that age group of 16 to 24-year-olds. You know, I've got an
Yes.
older daughter who's just outside of that, and one who's 11 who's fast creeping up. How fast will the recovery be? What would that have done to affect them? You know, is this a replacement for community service? Is it, you know, some people will see it as slave labour than give them a free ride on the dole. And
That's right.
To some extent, bring back national service if it of some description, if it gives them some purpose. But we've got to be careful not to give them the dross of jobs.
Important, that's important. I remember attending an event on an army base, and they evoked Chatham House rules as well. So Chatham House rules dictates what's said in the room stays in the room. Quite interesting. However, one of the questions asked, I think it was the base commander, was national service.
Now.
Pardon?
You're breaking the rules now.
I know, but it's Gary Outrageous talking. It's all right.
It's all right.
Anyway, there's not a parrot in the room, and that'd be another story.
I thought I'd say it before some smart Alec does.
They've got to find out which meeting I went to. I'm safe. I've told this story too many times, and no one's knocked on my door yet. But the question asked was national service. And without hesitation, he said, absolutely not. And there was like stunned silence. He said, the last thing I want on my base are a bunch of men and women who don't want to be here, who've been forced to do something they don't want to do. He said, I have the luxury, and we have the luxury as a country, where the people that joined our armed forces join so because they want to do it. And he said there's a massive difference from having what he called forced labour than people that wanted to create a profession within the armed services. And so that took me by surprise, because I thought, it'd be a good thing for discipline, etc. And again, he said, look, for some people, it's the total antithesis for them. You just don't want them around. He said, so no, as a commander, I definitely would not admit them in.
But by the same token, then what we were saying before is hellish important, that there needs to be a framework of different spectrums of jobs, because if the only selection of jobs is going to be the ones that nobody wants to do, then they're not going to want to be there either. That's right. What's that going to lead to? You know,
true.
A very unskilled generation.
Yeah. Well, there's that's occurring already, isn't it? Sadly, with the cull of businesses that are just having to let people go or close down. The pandemic has really sort of probably identified weaknesses in our society with regards to certain trades and professions and businesses that were just hanging in there. What that might do, the whole landscape is changing. Definitely. We're doing more online now, aren't we?
If my dad was here now, he would be saying, look, rather than sitting idle on your arse, what should you be doing? If you think back to, and he would say this, if you think back to cave dwellers, every single person had a role to play in maintaining the society and running of that society from clan to clan. And in lots of ways, we've put infrastructure in place, like councils to run the bins and road sweepers. And, so it's, a lot of it has become what I would class like my wife duties, household chores, as invisible labour.
Yeah. Because
there's been no value now attached to that, because it's done almost under the carpet.
It is. Well, that's going to stir some interest, isn't it, from what you've just said there, Wendy?
Oh, oops.
They're my wife duties.
Yeah, my wifey duties. I'm not going to tell you all of them.
It's interesting. I've got friends that have pink and blue roles within their relationships, and they're very happy with it. And, they get on very well. And it always makes me smile, because I often think about other people that would be so upset on the basis that someone has created that. Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, it's like the field rules of a game, isn't it? And within a relationship, if people choose to do things which help each other and the relationship, well, what they call it and what they do, really, it's not up to us, is it?
No.
Oh, at all.
It's everything's the same. It's about equality equality in as much as equal share of jobs.
Yeah.
You know? Now, my husband will go to work. He has a physical job. He comes home, he's knackered. All he wants is his cup of tea, his dinner, a bit of telly, check in on the football or the horse racing, and that's it. He's asleep. Whatever I want to watch from 8 o'clock is great. Yet over weekend, he will work Saturdays and Sundays like his working hours, doing stuff up. So he works 7 days a week, whereas on a weekend I've done all my jobs. I've tried to do that because I'm up from 6 and I don't sit down till I get to watch the telly at 8 o'clock. So in the balance of things, we're just a little bit off kilter in terms of matched time.
Yeah.
But I do have to pull his leg sometimes when he said, right, I'm getting rid of the grass and I'm going to slab it and we're going to have another patio area. I'm like, that's a job you've got out of doing every week, cutting the grass.
Yeah.
But you've got to feel like you're contributing equally to any relationship, whether it's husband and wife, family, business, partnerships. It's all the same, and I think that's why there's lots of talk now about people's roles in things.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you say equally, because you can alter that sum to suit, can't you? So, for example, if the total is 100, then equally could be 60-40 as well as 50-50. And I don't know, I always remember seeing a cartoon ages ago. It's about equality. And there were different sized people. And they all wanted to look over the fence to see a football match. So if we made everything equal, so all of them could stand on a ramp, then we'd still have problems because the shortest person couldn't see over the fence. So to make it equal, each step had to be at a different level so they could all see over the fence. And that was a nice sort of very simple analogy of what we might call equality, where for some people you have to give an extra effort for them, and for others you don't hardly have to give any help, but you are equally making sure, for example, they can all succeed in what they're aiming to do. So that's always stuck in my mind. Because if you try and deal out, I think, equally the same amount of support and effort to people, it's going to be taken up by them in different measures, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You must find that on the telephone side, Wendy, yeah?
Yeah,
Excuse me 1 second.
Even when it comes to training, every single training session is completely different because everybody's at a different place. Everybody can be stuck on a different point, So you'll say, okay, I know what to say, but I just don't know who to say it to. Well, let's help you find those people. Well, I've got loads of people that I can be talking to. I've got a database, but I don't know what the best thing is to say. Well, let's put it into chunks then and separate it out so that it's specific for different groups. So it's still that it comes back to the equal measure and try a little bit of everything in different ways, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the equal measure, do you think, like the output, it's the result. So, and what you do up to that point might be slightly different for every person, but it's to make sure that they can all achieve that outcome.
Well, interestingly, something struck me this morning. I'm doing the 21-day abundance with Deepak. I will ring the bell and keep the time.
Oh, right.
Right. It's a meditation. And last night I was laughing because I've said I've done 2 days and it's about 7 minutes each time. And I was laughing because I said I haven't done that meditation that I said I was going to start. And he said, well, how long does it take? I said, it's about 7 minutes each one. I said, no, I've got to find 20 minutes
oh no,
to do them all at once. But I've done it all at once. But it was interesting because, he talks about the people in your life and the effect that they have. So he's looking for that rise of people. Yeah. And the people that have affected me in my life, when you think about 50 people, I couldn't think of 50 people. Just couldn't. But interestingly, there were people that have affected me in a negative way. Yeah. That still had to go on the list. Isn't it? So it's that balance.
You got 150 of them, I bet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I probably ought to think about it differently, and only think of those. But then, you know, the same as, you know, as like money and effort. So what goes, you know, my dad always used to say, I always have enough coming in this hand to go out that hand.
That's right.
There's never much in between.
Yeah.
And it struck me that I've got on my notice board, these are like little, I don't know if you can read that, but it says enough, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is most people and just out of curiosity. And they're meant to be conversational starters, but in actual fact, if I relate that to money, I've only ever got just enough to whatever is going on
That's
at the
right.
time, because you adjust what you need.
Yes.
To what. So if you want abundance, is that money? Yep. Is it money? Is it love? Is it support? Is it family? Is it friendship? You know, but the question was around money, and I thought, not really that bothered about, because I've always got just enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to, you know, I would encourage people to go thinking along those lines. You know, what do you actually need?
Yeah, because it's needs and wants, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where the needs are what support what we do in our life, and the wants are probably the aspirations that we're aiming for. And yeah, if you think about like what your dad would say, you know, take with one hand, give with the other. That's cash flow, isn't it? Effectively.
Yeah.
And so long as that keeps flowing in, then for
energy.
me, it's an energy. That's right. It's a flow of energy. You know, whether I'm trading in pounds, coins, pence, bank cards, bank transactions, or by contra dealing. So if I do one thing and someone does something else probably this is an interesting one now. To try and get an equal value can be challenging. So I believe it's what both parties agree upon.
Yeah.
One way is have a monetary value, isn't it? You know, so if you've got £1,000 worth of training experience that you can trade for someone else that will do £1,000 worth of graphic design, for example, then I suppose there's a balance and a measure there.
Yeah.
It's when you can't measure that can lead to conflicts if it's not ironed out right at the front end.
Yes, it's that tangible. It's that tangible. I know I'm not going to be able to learn and understand this, and you have the expertise, and the same vice versa.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct.
And my dad loved bartering.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's bartering, isn't it? And then there's the contra deal. There's if you do this, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I think the thing I find interesting is when people have spoken to me about, they want to negotiate, and all they're looking for is a discount. And a discount is not negotiating at all. Any person can ask for extra pounds off. Years ago, I cut my teeth to develop myself anyway, selling photocopiers. And we're talking many, many years ago. And I was taught many things, but in that field, a lot of people want to cut you down all the way. It's a very competitive marketplace, as many are.
Yeah.
And I can always remember, I went into one office and I was chatting away, and they said, "Oh no, it's too expensive. Can you cut the price down?" I said, "Absolutely. I'll take the drum out, and we can knock another £500. Is that all right?" And I don't know why I said it. It was potentially rude as a salesperson to say that. And they looked at me a bit funny. I said, "Well, look, the price is what it is. It is what it is. There's the price list. I'm not sure what else I can, I've got a little margin I can play with sometimes." And the classic close. So if you're telling me that you want to buy the machine, let's say at £2,500, but the selling price is 2008, I might be able to take £100 or £200 off, for example. But I might say to them, "Well, so you're telling me then, if I can get to £2,500 right now, you're prepared to sign the order?" Now, if they said, "Oh, I want to think about it," well, they were just being stupid and trying to ask for a discount. Yeah. But if they were really keen, they'd say, "Well, actually, yeah, I think we're getting there. That's fine." And I find that in all sales negotiations, if I can do this, then this is what, sometimes sometimes you can't just drop a price down for the sake of it. You might have to take something out because it costs. For other people, like consultants and trainers, coaches, where the majority of their income is based just on them, and if someone's got a particular tight budget and you really want to work with them, then there's no reason why you can't, meet somewhere with them on it. And sometimes just do it. I've done it many times. So I've said, so what you're telling me then is, if I can do this, you're ready to go ahead. Yes. All right, let's do it. Shake hands right now. Okay, brilliant. It's done. So there's no messing about. There's no hassle. It could be a couple £100, but why do I want to waste 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 days messing about when I can get the deal in and move on?
Well, it's also that taking up that headspace, isn't it? Of I wonder what will happen with that, and coming back to that thought of I wonder what will happen with that. Get it done, move on.
Yes.
You go. I had an inquiry this week, and the guy, it was somebody wanted automated LinkedIn, and I was like, oh no, I'm done. That's not me. I don't know where you've got that from, but I can show you how to connect. In fact, I'll tell you now how to connect with 3 managed searches free.
Yes.
And you do this, and job done. If you want some further help, just let me know. That's fine. But I think this guy could help you. Let me know.
Right.
And it was just like, it's not what I want to get embroiled in. Even the help that I could offer is not the help that I want to get embroiled in. So isn't it better to just be helpful? And
yes,
on the right path?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like you said, it frees that headspace up. Sometimes just a little bit of help, bit of guidance for people that might not become a client or a customer, but it helps you. For me personally, it helps just move on to the next, nice, elegantly, eloquently. Too many people, Wendy, and maybe even people that will listen into this, they sometimes get stuck in the detail too much, or they get stuck in the dogma of I can only do it this way, or they make assumptions about people too quickly. Definitely, I've seen that many times in the sales environment, where I've even had sales managers say to me, "Oh, they'll never buy," and I'm thinking, well, how come you're their assistant buyer?
Well, do you know what makes me smile about that? It's a bit like when people don't procrastinate about picking up the phone.
Yeah.
If you have that conversation in your head first, right, about what's going to happen, and then you actually have the conversation, it's never going to match. So in lots of ways, if that sales manager knew so much, bloody hell, why was he working there? He could tell the future. He could have made, do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous, isn't it? If you know that definitively, go do something more lucrative where you know that you're just going to get yes every single time. But life's not like that.
No, you're exactly right. This particular gentleman would often make those type of assumptions, and I noticed, and all I would ever do, I would listen and go, oh, that's fantastic, and just go out and just carry on. As far as I was concerned, the person who was looking to buy had given me the buying signals all the way down the line, definitely. And I think as a sales professional, you sometimes have to have, not necessarily the guts, but you have to have the conviction of when you're in front of a potential customer, and that's what they are, or a potential client, when they start asking awkward questions, for me, they really are saying to you, please help me buy this. Please help me buy your services, Wendy, they might be saying. I'm not too sure. Why should I spend my money with you? That's what I'm hearing, rather than someone being awkward. I can remember going back, I think there was one gentleman in particular, it was 23 communication points we had before he made a buying decision. And one of the things that I found out is that he was a deputy headmaster. And so his timings were all over the place. So every time he made an appointment, probably I'd say 8 times out of 10, 8% of the time, he never turned up. And I just used to call him up, just checking, is everything okay? Yeah, that's fine. Really apologize. Said, no problem at all. I never, ever, ever made him feel bad. I didn't even talk about the time. I just talked about the next step, the next step, the next step. And if people could get that, it's always about the next step. Sometimes you can get a deal straight away, and sometimes it might take 2 to 3 years. I mean, we don't want that all the time because you haven't got a business. But there are times when, no matter how brilliant the salesperson might be or what technique I might want to share with someone, they're not going to buy today. So it's understanding, engaging them, isn't it?
Yeah. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
I would also say that you're right in some instances. I think you get smart at gut feeling. because your experience, because you're dealing with people, you can hear emotion, you can hear the doubt, you can hear all of that positivity as well. So it's about keeping it on track and moving that flow of energy in that emotive state to a logical decision. And the psychology behind that purchase, you know, we've said this before, that you know, you could lose the deal on being £1 less than the person that gets the deal.
Yes.
But just the relationship that they've probably had with that other person as opposed to you.
Oh, I know. It's not always about the money. In fact, I think very, very rarely, unless they're a price shopper, it's very rarely about the money on its own. It's that combination of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think trust is a big one, and certainty. If you're certain, you can really help someone. I mean, absolutely certain, and you can transmit that certainty to the potential client or customer, then they are more likely to say, "All right, then, Wendy. All right, Gary, let's go ahead." Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, did I tell you the story when I remember I sat in an office. This was many, many years ago. It was to do with photocopiers, and it was when they were being linked up to what's called a fiery connection, so to computers, to print. And I think I was on the last day before I was moving on to the next step. Before I grew my business, I actually had a plan. This might surprise a lot of people that know me, but my plan was to have sales experience first, then marketing experience, then set my own business up. Even though I was developing my business at the time, I knew I had to be trained in sales and marketing to have a good chance of making it. So I was on my last day before I moved to a marketing company, and I'm just chatting away with this customer. I said I'd drop in to see him, and we had a cup of coffee, and it wasn't really going anywhere. I wasn't really excited. I was quite chilled out. And then probably it was about 15 minutes in, he said, "Yeah, Gary, we'll go ahead with that proposal, by the way." So I'm sitting there thinking, what proposal? And this particular deal was worth about £21,000. My commission was going to be nice on the top of that. And I said to him, "Oh, of course, my apologies. There's me chatting away with you. Let me just get the documentation ready. Because normally I had to have it ready, so all they had to do is just sign at the bottom." And he said, you dropped it in the post for me anyway, Gary. So I filled it out, as you said. And I'm still sitting there thinking, I can't remember this, but obviously I had. And it signed it all and just handed it over to me. And it was just a reminder that when the relationship is right and they trust you and you're certain, then all the worry and pain about when people think about, you know, signing a client up, etc., that goes out the window.
Yeah, that's not, because that's not.
The worst thing for me was, you know, he fully trusted me and I was leaving the next day.
Yeah. I think that's another good point, that quite often, certainly in my experience, and I've seen this, you know, before WAG, because I mean I've been in my little hutch for 15 years, so I get the odd glimpse now of corporate life. Would never go back. And the salesman, you know, and I was a lot younger, so you would think impressionable, and I just used to think, how do you ever close any deals the way that you are?
I know.
Because too many are just about the deal, and that's it.
Yeah.
Next. Yeah. They don't
True.
see that, you know, and I don't know whether they bully people into that deal, or that the customer trusts, that they hope. And this was my reasoning at the time, was that I'd made such a good impression to get that meeting in the first place, that they trusted that the person after him would be as good as me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That they would still be looked after, even though the salesman was a typical salesman. And I hate stereotyping. Yeah. But it's interesting, you know, if you're going to be good at it, you've got to show that you're around for a long time. And something that I learned when I very first started up WAG was that I was going to local businesses, and it's kind of that you don't do it on your own doorstep, do you? So, you know, if you're going to do it on your own doorstep, it's not a good idea. Find somebody else's doorstep, you know.
And you see a lot of that You see a lot of that. So it's going to hold yourself up to a higher level of accountability, isn't it? That, you know, you do what you say you're going to do, and you do that regular. That's it.
Chatting with somebody this morning, and he was sort of saying, you know, asked one of the questions, what's most important about you and your clients is, and I said, well, most of my clients came to my wedding. You know, it was 6 years ago at the time, and that's how I like to treat my clients. They're not really we work together.
That's right.
The integral part of that relationship is that, yes, we might do business today, but I'm invested in you now.
That's right. That's right. And that friendship just grows and develops, doesn't it, Wendy? You know, as time goes by. I've had that the same. Birth, deaths, and marriages. So I've been there with, you know, with clients all the way through.
Come back.
I'm back again. Yeah, because I've reverted to the mobile, and it looks like it might lose its power at some point or another. I'm not sure if we can close shortly, Wendy, but I think one of the most poignant moments for me really was actually being with a client. I'd known him for 12 years. And I saw him 3 days before he passed away. And I went to his home where he'd had a hospital bed brought in. The guy was still where he could. He was still trying to do business from his hospital bed. Fantastic person to do business with, both him and his wife, the MD. They were the most ethical and honest business people I'd ever met, ever. Seriously. They always paid on time, every time. He had an average of 48% gross profit on all the margins when he was selling products. Just an absolute great guy to be with. But yeah, to actually have the privilege of just spending the last few moments. And they did try to cancel my appointment, because I just drove down to see him. And I'd left my mobile phone off accidentally. And so when I arrived at the house, his wife said to me, oh, I was actually going to cancel, but now you're here. I said, oh, okay. So she went upstairs. There was a few sort of shuffling about. She says, yeah, he'd love to see you. So I think sometimes when we reflect back on our lives and the works that we do, it's not just about the goods and the money, is it? It is, I think, a big part is about the relationships we build with our clients and our customers, because that is the toughest thing for someone to not stick with. But it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of effort. And I think the great Zig Ziglar said, you know, you can have everything in life that you choose to have, as long as you help other people get what they want. And I think the added line he said is, so long as you're interested. And I think that's the key thing. You can't fake this. Yeah, you can't fake the relationship, can you? You can't fake, because people will see through that, as we do. But I just think it's one of those things that sometimes gets missed out on. You know, the core reason why we do business, I think, is to help people solve their problems. And for me, it was to make friends, actually, help them solve problems and make money. And I know if I did got all those together, it would be a whole lot better. Life would be great.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I always look at the client that makes me the most money and what I do for them, and then I look at the client that I have the most fun, and that's the marriage. That's the next client I'm looking for. So I'm always
why not
next better client, you know, because I know that they're going to get so much more out of it. You know,
they are
next time. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Oh, totally interesting. Wow, what a Waze meeting.
I know.
Rather outrageous start to it. I must apologise, but I do hope that the listeners get some fun out of it, as much as you and I have had anyway.
Well, if anybody wants to talk to us about how we build those relationships, you know, come and talk to us. You know, it's a conversation to have, isn't it? And it can be given.
It is,
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Wow, I've really enjoyed our time again, Wendy. Thank you very much.
No, it's my pleasure, as always.